How modern feminism scammed a generation of women by finding Sky. To be fair, I agree. I feel like feminism has made it so that instead of promoting what makes women women, we have somehow managed to try to turn women into men. And we're like, everything that has to do with that is unique to a woman is like bad. You should rather be like career and act like a dude. Just be a dude. It's really interesting to see how that has happened. Let's just start.
One second, feminism is demonizing men for objectifying women, and in the next, it's encouraging.
And in the next, it's women. Feminism. Stop objectifying women. Feminism. Objectify yourself. You see the problem?
Encouraging girls to sell their body on OnlyFans so that men can objectify them. I mean, which is it? Are you sexually empowered or are you a victim of oppression? I used to consider myself a feminist until I realized that women were using it as a means to justify going out like this and then complaining about being called hot.
That reminds me of women that go into the gym, but they wear the most un-gym-like outfit you could ever imagine.
Shorty, have you seen your own ass? I swear to God, women are the only ones that can spend 2 hours doing their makeup and picking out an outfit and then still say they don't want to be judged on their appearance. Girl, you literally pulled up your leggings to your third rib and gave yourself the ultimate wedgie. We know you didn't dress like this for you. When you look at the actual definition of feminism, all it is supporting women having access to equal rights. I'm not going to sit here and call myself an anti-feminist as someone who agrees with the core definition of feminism. But the problem is that the word has evolved to mean something very different. It's not just about women's rights anymore. There are other ideological strings attached. A major concept of modern feminism has been encouraging sexual liberation. This was started partly due to the double standard around sexuality for men and women. When a man frequently engages in casual sex, he's considered a stud.
I think we kind of made a mistake here, if you feel me. Instead of encouraging women to sleep around, we should have made men stop sleeping around. You know? We should have... I feel like we went into the wrong direction. We should have made men pull back instead of women run forwards. If you feel me.
But when a girl does it, she's considered a slut. Sexual promiscuity leads to less satisfaction in relationships for both genders.
And I'm like, if you're a whore, you're weird, man. You can do it, but you're weird, man. I cannot understand it. I cannot get it. Doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. I can get it. Also, this graph is not just... is very true, because consider this. Not just is it less satisfactory, likely, as data shows, it's also the more partners you had, the less likely your relationship is going to last.
Genders. Just because it's more socially acceptable for a guy to have casual sex doesn't mean women should be trying to match that expectation by normalizing it. Two wrongs don't make a right, and promoting a destructive behavior under the marketable guise of sexual liberation is abhorrent. It's so interesting how women constantly complain about how shallow and objectifying their relationships with men are, but then promote hookup culture, which directly encourages this exact transactional process. If feminism actually cared about women as much as it claims to, the movement would be encouraging them to be more selective about...
This is an how do I put this? I am put on your tinfoil hats. But here's something that I think feminism does, or not feminism does, but something that is like a hidden goal of feminism, which is feminism kind of promotes the fear of men, which I feel like is used to profit off of women. If women dislike men or fear men, they can kind of make a profit out of that. Tinfoil hat off, and take a step back when women decided to take a step forward. Statistically, it is more likely for a younger dude, to be, for example, a virgin, than it is for a younger woman. You could have a woman at 25 and a dude at 25, and it's much more likely for the dude to be a virgin, for example.
About their sexual partners. It would be educating them about the negative effects of casual sex, since we know that it leads to decreased relationship satisfaction, loneliness, and depression. And look, I know people are going to take this as me trying to tell women how to live. That's not what I'm doing at all. You have all the freedom in the world to live exactly how you please. However, where I do have an issue is when a cultural movement is built on a foundation of lies. If you're gonna have an entire movement, an entire ideology who claims its very goal is to benefit women, then encourage behavior that actually benefits women. At one point, this movement had genuinely pure intentions. It's the reason I have a right to vote and work and be educated. Feminism changed our lives as women for the better. So I'm sorry, but I can't help but feel like now it's doing the complete opposite. It's a common feminist position to be anti-tradwife. They insist that tradwives have some sort of Stockholm syndrome where they've fallen in love with their own oppression, claiming that it perpetuates traditional gender roles which have held women back. But I thought what actually
Like I said, I'm a big advocate for tradwife and tardwife. Also, I have a tradwife. W me.
actual feminism was supposed to be about was supporting women's freedom of
Yeah, now that you mentioned it, I've seen this on TikTok, here in Germany as well, where like you have like women who live like the classic stay-at-home mom life, and it's like, people are acting like, she's a demon, she's anti-feminist and stuff, and it's like, didn't you say that it's about choice? So a woman can choose the way she wants to live, but now you're saying not that way? Really weird. Pure intention with that, with what future plans? Depends. Let's vote. Okay, we can't do anything like, let's change the world. Well, that is what voting could be used for.
choice. That means supporting them if they choose to climb the corporate ladder and supporting them if they choose to be a housewife. I thought the whole point of feminism was to respect a woman's freedom of choice, even if it's not the choice we would personally make. It was to recognize that there's not a one-size-fits-all lifestyle for women and that they should be able to prioritize what's important to them. Feminism will argue against this by saying that choices don't exist in a vacuum and society impacts your ability to make autonomous decisions, but you can make that exact same argument on the other side too. I could sit here and tell you that your decision to be a feminist is because social media has brainwashed you into believing that women are oppressed. So your choice to be a feminist isn't a real choice at all, but instead a reaction to your cultural environment. You can run in circles forever trying to make this argument against either side. That's because it's a dumb argument. Who are you to assume that another woman's choices aren't autonomous? The mere assumption of that is actually quite anti-feminist of you. This is the female version of Sneeko calling everyone who disagrees with him a bot. You're accusing grown
True and real, except the female version of Sneeko probably doesn't sit in the cock chair, but that's a different discussion. I feel like feminism hurt women more than helped overall. I would say in some aspects, it kind of has. In some aspects. For example, dating. It has significantly harmed women. Because feminism has taught women to achieve things and use that in a dating portfolio as like, this is me, look at how great I am, that men kind of don't care about. Most dudes likely don't care about, for example, how much money you make. Like for me, that isn't on my list of like important things. You could be a bed rotter. You could rot in your bed all day. I don't care. And I think that in a way it did. It also did with, for example, quotas. Because now it says, if there's a quota, now it says you are here not because of how talented or how good you are, but because you have to be here.
Women of being incapable of coming to their own autonomous conclusions. That means you're doing the exact thing that you constantly accuse men of doing.
Of course, in other ways it was good, right? Women being able to do whatever job they want. Women being able to have their own bank account, get a driver's license, being able to vote. But it also has damaged women in some ways.
To you. Maybe some women like traditional gender roles. That's cool. Let them do their thing just like you're allowed to do yours. I'm the most masculine woman I've ever met. I should be the
or teaching women that you can sleep around and like there will be no consequences and stuff. I feel like we should apply those consequences also to men more.
First in line to be championing the end of traditional gender roles. But I'm not like this because I'm resisting the patriarchy. This is just a part of how I am. I like buying stocks, playing with boobs. I'm just a chill guy. WAP. Women against porn. Except in today's terms, it means wet ass pussy. With modern feminism currently preaching sexual liberation, it may be surprising to learn that at one point it was the complete opposite. In the 1970s, anti-pornography was a growing part of feminism. And when you think about it, it actually
Damn. Fourth and third wave feminists were kinda based. I agree with this. I agree with this. I agree with this picture. Based.
actually makes perfect sense because it's consistent with the core values of feminism to demonize the objectification of women and stop the fetishization of sexual violence against them. We know that porn is overwhelmingly aggressive towards women. We also know that consumers are more likely to commit acts of sexual violence, less likely to intervene if they witness an assault, and more likely to objectify and dehumanize women. Porn is seriously bad for both genders.
In addition to that, it can, for example, also lead to autogynephilia. If you don't know what that is, it's pretty much a dude dressing himself in feminine clothing, which turns him on, or being treated like a woman, which turns him on. Not to confuse with being trans. But a lot of there's a few people that do have this that get put into the trans category, which leads them to self-deletion.
But especially women. So to see the feminist movement glorify platforms like OnlyFans and other adult content feels like a complete slap in the face. How can you possibly complain about how oppressive it is to be objectified and then objectify yourself for profit? I don't understand how modern feminists have come to this conclusion. Actually, that's a lie. I do understand. I completely understand. Because it would go against the sexual liberation movement. It goes against the sex positivity narrative. But one honest look at the statistics and it's blatantly clear. There's nothing liberating or positive about this industry. So what happened? Why did the anti-porn feminist protests stop? This article explains it perfectly. Anti-porn feminists were labeled sex negative in an era of feminism that was heavily influenced by liberalism. Individual choices, as opposed to mass liberation, became the forerunning feminist agenda. If that doesn't perfectly encapsulate the modern feminist movement, I don't know what does. The current movement wants all the ideals of feminism without having to sacrifice anything for it. The movement doesn't want to give up porn. It doesn't want to give up casual sex. That would be
You pretty much, you want to have equality without the same responsibility. For example, before women were allowed to vote, only men were allowed to vote. Men were also the ones that would get drafted. Women not. That is still today, women are allowed to vote, but they will not get drafted. Very interesting. You want equality, yet fathers still are more likely to use their child in court even if they actually want to be involved with the child. You all have it much harder as a dude to actually keep your child. Keep custody of your child. You don't see feminists who fight for equality fight for that. Women, on average, receive lighter sentences when committing crimes. You don't see women fighting for that. There's a significant lack in men have it harder to apply for more social jobs that, for example, also that involve also, for example, children, because of this weird stereotype. Women aren't fighting for that. It's only where it benefits you, and that's what is annoying me.
be infringing on my personal freedoms. But maybe true liberation requires some personal sacrifice of those beloved freedoms. You can't eat a pound of cake every day and expect to lose weight. Your goals require a sacrifice. The issue of equal pay is another primary subject that feminists bring up. It's also probably the #1 most misrepresented topic in feminism. The gender pay gap does not exist because of the patriarchy oppressing women. The pay gap only exists because women are more likely to choose lower paying jobs. If you compare a man and a woman working at the same place, in the same position, with the same amount of
Lower paying jobs, getting pregnant, that's just what happens to women. Men can't get pregnant. They're less likely to do overtime. Women are also unfortunately more agreeable, which makes it harder for them to get a raise. There's just something that exists. You know, the joke, the hammer, the line, girls goes first. It sounds like fit for the subject. Kinda, yeah, true.
of experience working the same amount of hours, the pay is exactly the same. But when you compare the average income of men versus women, there's obviously going to be a gap. This is because men choose careers like
Yeah, that's also because you can't throw all the jobs of men and all the jobs of women and throw them into one thing and be like, oh, women make less apparently. That's not how that works. You throw in the average salary around the country for male nurses, and then for female nurses, and then you look if there's a difference. That's the only way technically to see how get closer. And then you have to look hours worked. Then you have to look raises. You have to do all those things. I think here in Germany it's around 1 to 2% the pay gap. So it's not even significant.
like car mechanics and truck driving, whereas women choose careers like teaching and nursing. A quick comparison of these incomes, and it's easy to see
Well, currently they're choosing OnlyFans more than teaching.
why there's a pay gap. It's not misogyny that creates this gap, it's just preference. Women have all the freedom in the world to go be an automotive mechanic, just like men can become teachers, but that's not typically what each gender wants to do.
We can look at Scandinavia for that. In some Scandinavian countries, they are the closest to equality ever. They're incredibly close. And both genders are more different in their job preferences. Men went even more into the regular industry jobs, while women even went even more into social jobs. I feel that also comes into the consideration that women overall are more social than men are. To be honest, I don't know how they do the math. They can tell me women earn less than men. But how they got to the conclusion, you could probably look that up in numbers. They probably did have some way to calculate that.
On average. So from the outside, when you show the statistic of the gender pay gap, everyone's jaw drops and jumps to conclusions about sexism. But if you just look a little deeper, it's easy to see why it's there. If you're a woman and you're unhappy with your salary as a teacher, go be a truck driver. It is actually that simple. Something I can't stand about the feminist movement, and really many other modern movements, is how evasive they are to taking responsibility. If you're not happy with your pay, change jobs. You don't have to make it a political movement. You don't have to find someone to blame. You can just do something to change your situation. You can't really talk about feminism without also talking about the red pill manosphere space. This is because they respond to one another culturally. The red pill purports that they have the solutions to these modern feminist problems. Spoiler alert, they don't. The red pill solution
True and real, because the red pill solution, for example, for some people is just get rich, sleep with a lot of women. That does not solve the problem. Congratulations, you just made everything more worse.
is extremely unrealistic for the majority of both men and women. The red pill has this idea that women need to just skip college and go back to being housewives, except that most of the men saying this would never be able to afford that lifestyle. Homie, you don't even have the career to be able to pay for the lifestyle of the woman that you want. The red pill will blame women for failing to fulfill their feminine roles without even recognizing that as men, they're failing just as badly at fulfilling their masculine ones. I really don't think that the red pill's idea of expecting men to be able to afford supporting an entire family on their one income is realistic.
It's not realistic. It cannot be fulfilled. It cannot be fulfilled anymore. Shit is just too expensive to do that anymore. In addition to that, on the other side, we have women who ask that the man is supposed to pay for everything, and she has to provide nothing to make this work, which also does not work. It's not my money is my money and his money is ours. That does not work.
At all. I think in theory the traditional family dynamic is a great idea and would make very happy, healthy relationships, but in modern times less than 1/4 of men will ever be financially capable of achieving such a feat. In today's economy, the trad lifestyle is reserved for only the most prosperous men. but yet the red pill preaches it like it's the majority solution. Pew Research shows in 2022 only 23% of households had the husband as the sole provider of income. That means 77% of women were contributing to household income. Most guys just aren't out here making enough money to support himself, a woman, and kids. And in today's economy, I would say that's pretty understandable. What I don't see the red pill talking about is how a lot of women would love to adopt the traditional lifestyle, but there's just not enough prosperous men to go around. Given an alternative, many women might very well choose to be a housewife. Feminism might be the only movement that can get away with
Yeah. I know a lot of girls who would love to stay at home. But they simply can't. They can't afford to stay at home. I also know a lot of women who like to work. We have no issue with that. Who would want to work. But I also know a lot of girls that would not like to work and have to. That think it sucks. It's just overall really... You need to make it affordable again to actually be stay-at-home. But that does no longer apply here, unfortunately. It does no longer work.
Constantly complaining about how oppressive it is to be objectified and then simultaneously objectify themselves. The problem is that this movement wants all the benefits of feminism without any of its consequences. Say you want equality until you realize that means splitting the bills, unclogging the toilet, and having to kill the spider. In modern relationships, it's common for the financial theory of the woman to be everything he makes is ours and everything I make is mine, rather than both.
I said it before! I can predict futures! Yeah, but that's how a lot of people act. A lot of women act. Where it's like, his money is our money, and my money is mine. That does not work. Now, I'm not a fan of splitting the bill. I'm not particularly a fan. It can be done if wanted. And I think it should be done depending on the outcome of the date. If you don't plan on seeing each other, that would obviously need some form of communication where, like, I don't think this is going anywhere. I don't think we should see each other again. And then you would just split the bill. I think that would be a approach that could work. If you plan on seeing each other again, then of course there is room for discussion for the guy paying. But that would need to be communicated, and I don't think people are honest enough to communicate that.
Both partners contributing equally, which is what feminism claims to want to do. There's a book called Sexual Utopia and Power by...
I also don't think that 50-50 relationships work. I don't think they work. Because you will not be able to provide 50-50 at all times. Sometimes you are just able to provide 20%. Sometimes just 30%. Sometimes even just 10%. And sometimes one partner has to provide more than the other partner. That's just how it is. I'm a big advocate for 100-100 relationships. We give each other everything we have. I'm a big advocate of that. I couldn't be a stay-at-home husband. I was offered once and I tried, and I was so bothered by it that the relationship just didn't work. Yeah, yeah, I can see that. You're somebody who needs to do something. I feel like.
Roger Devlin that sums this up perfectly. The modern woman wants all the benefits of a traditional marriage but is unwilling to pay the costs. She wants a man to marry her without her having to marry the man. Some feminists are even demanding that there be quotas for women to be in executive positions, but they never talk about there being quotas for women in bricklaying. It's clear that modern feminism wants all the benefits of something without any of its sacrifice. Let's be very clear. That is not equality. That's privilege.
Damn, she cooked. I think she cooked with this video. I agree. She cooked.